Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to do the Magical Readathon wrap up. Now, for those of you who have watched my channel a little bit, some of the non-readathon content, you know that this is my second time having to film this because I filmed it on my phone and it did not work. I was not able to upload it. The audio was garbage, and I am not going to put you guys through trying to listen to that. So, I have created a little PowerPoint to kind of walk you through the readathon and everything that I accomplished this particular month in the readathon and over the course of the last 3 years. So first of all, this is my character below me. This is Amethystra Moonveil. She is studying at Irregular Academy to become an alchemist. This is the Alchemist Path, and this is this year's reading for the Alchemist Path Autumn Equinox. Now, I started the character and participating in the Magical Readathon 3 years ago, and I did the novice path in the earlier part of the year, and then completed my first path, or my first instructional, which would be the apprentice path in that first year. So I did the novice and the apprentice in the first year. The second year, I did the adept path, and so I continued on trying to get the alchemist path. And then the third year, this year, I was working on the master level of this path. And so, at the end, if I complete this path, I get a little diploma, and that's awesome. So here we go. Let's see if I made it. If you were with me, this is the autumn semester syllabus. I am not going to expect you to try and read this on the screen. Even if you're on a big TV, it's probably really hard to read based on the font. I did not make this font, and this is the documentation that comes with the readathon. So I will link the original book roast post for the readathon in the description, and if you're interested in joining or going onto the G Drive and getting this particular document, you can see it there. I'm not going to try and allow you to read this, but this is what we get every year based on your character. For example, for me, this is the alchemist path, and I need to attain these levels in these particular classes. So I go to the class, I find the level. If I need an O level, I just need to read that one book. If it's a Q level, I need to read the Q level book and the O level book. And if it's a D level, which is distinguished, then I need to read the D level book, the Q level, which is qualifying, and then the O level, which is ordinary. So for some, I'm reading all three books. For some, I'm reading one or two. So that's how it is laid out. Just a brief overview. So if we're going to go into these in order, in the order that I have them in my particular planner. So the first one that we're going to talk about is Akashic Wisdom. Now, this book I had mentioned in the mid-month check-in is something that I am reading for research for a book that I'm writing. I did get through this book. It is much more of an instructional book and a guidebook in terms of things that you can work through on your own. So it's not really a great reading book. And because a lot of those things a lot of those metaphysical skills build on one another, this probably wasn't the best book to try and read for the Magical Readathon. I did make it all the way through. I am going to have to go back and reread and redo some more things. I didn't annotate as much as I wanted to, but I did get through it enough to know which sections I need to come back to for research for the book I'm writing. So that was great. It did serve its purpose, and in getting that off my shelf and into my brain. I have quite a few books that I want to read for research for the novel I'm writing, and if I'm going to finish the first draft by the end of the year, those aren't doing me any good just sitting on my shelf. So getting one of those read all the way through has been great. This next book, the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. This book is actually one that has been on my to be read list for a really, really long time. And I'm excited about it. I want to read it, and I just never seem to get around to reading it. So, and this time was no exception. So you'll see this little scroll here in the corner. This is the scroll of extension, and that cost me 10 points to purchase that scroll. There's no money involved in the Magical Readathon, but I did have to purchase the scroll with points in order to read this later in the year. So I do need to finish this before the end of the year, and I will. That is perfectly fine. I have still not read it yet, so I can't give you a review on it yet. uh, and that one, I should be talking about these prompts. So let me go back to the beginning. This is alchemy. This is the ordinary level, so the first level. And the prompt for this was liquid sunlight, and you needed to have a sun on the cover. And so since this has a sun on the cover, it qualified. The second one, the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches, the prompt was blossom properties, and that meant that you needed a cover in your birth flower color. So my birth flower color is blue or purple, and so this particular book qualified for blue and purple, and this is alchemy level qualified. For the next one, this is alchemy level distinguished. So I had to read 3 books in this particular level. This book was Iron Flame, and I did review this book in the mid-month check-in, so I'm not going to give a review on this particular book. But you'll see this little scroll here. This is called the Scroll of Continuity, and that means that you can read something before the semester starts, so before the beginning of September, and you can count it towards your semester. So this Scroll of Continuity allowed me to do that. So I did read this earlier in the year, and I talk about that in the mid-month check-in. But anytime you see this little scroll symbol here, that means that it's a book that I have carried over from earlier in the year. Because obviously reading 14 books in a month, especially when they are books of this size, is just too difficult. And I don't want to, for lack of better terminology, dumb down my reading in order to meet the goals of the readathon. I want to read books that I would be reading anyway. I don't just want to grab a whole bunch of like 200-page books and call it done. So this allows me to do that by having this particular scroll of continuity. So then we have Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I did review this in my mid-month check-in. I did say that I was still in the middle of this at the time, and I had started it a couple of years ago, actually. And so I do have this scroll of continuity because I didn't start it in September. I started it prior. And I have finished reading it briefly. So I have gone through and I have skimmed through the whole thing. I've read it, but I didn't read it in depth. So I have read it. I am continuing to read it with my friend. We discuss a page of it every single week. So it will be a long time before I'm finished discussing it, before I'm officially finished with the book, but I have finished reading it. So it does count for the readathon because I did make it through reading it. For those who may be considering this book, what I said mid-month is accurate. I find it's best used to prompt a discussion. And that in that respect, I think that you should read it with someone, or that you should read it with the intention of journaling about what you're reading, rather than just trying to read it as a normal read. I don't think it's very good as a normal read. I think that it shines more when you're reading it, you know, as a discussion prompt. So if you're interested in more on that, you can go to the mid-month check-in, and it'll have more information or more of what I talked about. Next up, we have the Little Paris Bookshop. I did review this at the mid-month check-in, and I enjoyed this book a lot. This particular, so here I didn't go back and this was for the lore class for the ordinary level. That's the first level, and the prompt was Forgotten Tongues, and it had to be a translated book. So the translated book, obviously from Ancient Roman, translated to English. This one is also for the lore class, and this is the level qualified. That's the second level, and the prompt is ancient prose, and that needs to have a letter or notes on the cover or inside the book. So obviously this has the postcard here, and definitely qualified. So I reviewed this at mid-month, so if you are interested, again, look in the cards and you will see that mid-month check-in where I review this book. The next book that we have is Seraphina. This is for the class Animal Studies, the ordinary level, and the prompt was Hatchlings, and it needed to be a debut book. So the first book that a particular author wrote. Seraphina is the first book by Rachel Hartman. It is an older book. It's been out for a while, so it is pretty easy to obtain at a library or what have you. It is the first book in a 2-book series, and then there are 2 additional books that take place in the world but don't necessarily, aren't necessarily related to this particular book. I enjoyed Seraphina. I thought that the writing was really, really nice. It was really nice to see a relationship develop without the spice level that you often find in adult fiction. This was kind of young adult fiction, but with adult language. So not bad language, just adult language. It was not necessarily written for young adults, but it is written about a young adult. So in the book, I believe she starts at a very young age. And so, or I know she starts at a very young age. And so technically it would be considered young adult, but the writing level is elevated. And I did appreciate that. It has all of that pacing of a more mature book. So that being said, it does have a bit of a slower pace to it, and I really liked that. It does have a cliffhanger ending, so plan to read the second book. I plan to read it. I'm going to add that to my to be read list because I did enjoy the author and the writing. Sometimes when you read a lot of adult fantasy, dragons, you get a lot of spice. And so it is really nice to have a book that doesn't necessarily have that has that kind of scaled back dramatically and really focuses more on interpersonal relationships. So I enjoyed Seraphina. It was a good book. I do recommend it if you like that, what I described. If that sounds good to you, then I do recommend it. It is a good book. Fourth Wing is the opposite, kind of. The spice level, it does have a bit more of a young adult feel to it and a higher spice level. Although not as much in Fourth Wing as later in the series. Again, I reviewed this book in my mid-month check-in, so I'm not going to talk about it too much, except to say that this was the book for astronomy, the level ordinary, which is the first level. And the prompt was invisible stars, and that is characters with invisible illnesses, or with an invisible illness, not and. If you have read Fourth Wing, the main, if you haven't, a brief mild spoiler, the main character does have quite a few invisible illness type things going on. So I felt that fit the prompt. I did read this earlier in the year, so I do have that scroll of continuity here to allow me to count it for this semester. Then we have the Lost Apothecary. Now, I don't remember if I talked about this in my mid-month check-in or not, but this is for the class Inscriptions. The level is ordinary, and the prompt was the magic of primes. It needed to be a prime number of letters in the title. I believe that this is 17 letters, and so that is the 17 letters is suitable for this particular prompt. The Lost Apothecary, I read as an audiobook. So I count it as read because I did complete the whole audiobook. I used to listen to a lot of books on audiobook when I used to drive a lot more. I haven't been commuting, and so I haven't had that daily drive. So there was a lot of time in between chunks of listening to this audiobook. I don't tend to listen if I'm just driving for 20 minutes. I listen if I'm doing a longer drive. And I didn't have as many of those in September, so I didn't really, I ended up having to listen to it at home, and then I get tired, and it's not ideal. It's not where I'm used to listening to an audiobook. But I did finish it. I did enjoy the story, although it's not the type of book I would normally pick up. There's a historical element to it, so you have two kind of stories going on at the same time. You have the historical story and then the modern day story and where they're intersecting. I don't want to give away spoilers, but the narration is fine on the audiobook. The narration is not distracting as it can be on some. It's perfectly fine, but it just was not my cup of tea. I like it, but I would probably only give this book maybe like a 3-star rating. It was not a favorite of mine. Would I read it again? Probably, but at the same time, it's... Oh, would I read it again, actually, as I'm asking myself? No, I wouldn't. I was getting lost in the words there. I wouldn't read it again, so it's not going to stay in my library. I'll probably gift it to someone. All right, so now we get to some fun and interesting stuff. This is for the class Inscriptions. The level is qualified, and the prompt was archiving something with a vertical spine title. And so I had originally selected the book Fresh by Margot Wood, and I did not end up reading that particular book. So I purchased what they call a scroll of replacement. The scroll of replacement from the Guild allows you to swap out one book for any book of your choice. It doesn't have to meet any of the prompts within the semester. So I used The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I thought this book was fantastic. It's got a really interesting twist at the end, and just was a really surprisingly good read. I read it for a book club that I was going to, and I really, really enjoyed this one. I'm glad that I read it. So again, the prompt was supposed to be something with a vertical spine title. This does not have that. I did have to purchase, using points, a scroll in order to not use the original selection or a book that met the criteria. It doesn't have to be the original selection. So just because I thought I was going to read Fresh, I could have read a different book with a vertical spine title. I just didn't have time. I had a lot of very heavy books in this semester, and so I didn't have time to finish, and that was one of the books that was lower on my to-be read list. All right, so now we get to the Spellshop. This is for the class Inscriptions, level Distinguished. So this is the third book for inscriptions. And the prompt is animal taming runes, and that means it has to have an animal on the cover. So as you can see, we have this cute little cat dragon here. And you can also see there's a scroll here. This is the scroll of extension because I have not finished this book. I am about a third of the way into the book. I am really enjoying the story. It is cute and cozy and very a nice, quick, easy read, but I didn't quite make it through till the end. So I will be finishing this book up in the beginning here of October, and then I'll have that completed without a problem. So that is the Spellshop. So far, so good. I like it, but I can't recommend it until I've finished going all the way through. All right, for spells and incantations, ordinary level, the prompt was charm or luck. You had to roll a dice, and then the book had to have that many pages. So, for example, if you rolled a 2, it had to have between 2 and 299 pages. If you rolled a 4, between 4 and 499 pages. And so this book met my role, and again, I talk about this more in my mid-month check-in. And I had already read this book before the month of September started. So I did use a scroll of continuity here, and that to satisfy this particular prompt. Now, it just so happened, what happens is when I get the Autumn Equinox list, I look at it and I try and find, I look at the books that I've already read for the year. I try and see if any of those books match any of the prompts. And then I immediately will get the scrolls of continuity for those particular books because, again, with 14 books, that's a lot of reading. I don't always make it through all of them in fact, I don't even think I could make it through all of them in September. So the scrolls of continuity are important. And so I just, I know that's going to happen every year. And so I have those. Now, if I were to get further ahead and do a lot more reading in the month of September, I would perhaps replace one of these books that I had read earlier in the year with a different book that fit that same prompt. But I didn't. I still have 1.5 books left to read. And so, it is what it is. But this works out well for me every single year that I do it. So next up we have for the class spells and incantations, the qualified level. The current spell trends is the prompt, and that had to be a book that was released this year. So I read Rebecca Yarros' Onyx Storm, which is the third in the Fourth Wing trilogy. I think it's going to be more than a trilogy. I think there's another one coming out next year, but I am not certain. As of right now, there are 3. So I read this earlier in the year also, and that does count as a new author book. So, we are good to go there. I did review that at the mid-month check-in, so you can see the review there. I also reviewed this at the mid-month check-in, The Summer I Turned Pretty. I read for the class Restoration, the ordinary level, and the prompt was Unbroken Focused Tincture, and that is a single point of view book. So book from one person's point of view. This particular book is from Belly's point of view, and I read this prior to September as well. So it does have that scroll of continuity included. I also did watch, so even though I didn't read this book during September, I watched the TV series during September. And so I really kind of liked the TV series. I liked it a little bit more than the book. The main character in the book feels so, so, so selfish. And I felt like the actor who portrayed the character gave her a bit more humanity. And I felt she still is selfish, but she is young. I mean, I get that. It's a young character. And um, I felt like the TV series dealt with that selfishness in a more humane way than the book overall. So I liked the TV series. The book is nice. If you're a parent and your child is thinking of reading this book, be prepared to have some conversations with your child about, kind of the selfishness level of this book. And I don't want to give away spoilers, but the main character is very challenging to like at points in the book. It is an adaptation, a modern adaptation on the movie Sabrina. So if you've seen that movie and you know that story, this has quite a few parallels, but some of the things that make Sabrina work have been taken out of this particular story, and at least for me. And so, I found it a bit difficult, but as a TV show, it was a bit more entertaining. There are 3 seasons. I did make it through all 3 seasons, but I did read the book prior to having watched the TV series. So that qualifies for me um, for having read it because I read it earlier in this particular year. So then we get to another swap out book here. This class is Demonology. The level was ordinary and the prompt was Impling Outbursts. You needed to have emotions in the title, and I was going to read Feel Good Productivity. After Akashic Wisdom and how heavy that was as a nonfiction book in terms of just the density of it, I did not feel like getting into another one of those for September. So I swapped that out for the Crone of Midnight Embers, which is the first in the Myrtlewood Crone series. I read this for a book club and I really enjoyed it. It's a quick read. It's about 300 pages. I am going to try and read the rest of the books in this series in the month of October. And so I have here a scroll of replacement. The scroll of replacement is satisfies exchanging out this particular title. And then we have our last book, and probably one of the more challenging topically to get through. Kingfisher is a very heavy book. There are a lot, I don't want to spoil this book at all, but this was my Order of the Crescent read. So in the Magical Readathon, your character can join a guild, and every semester your guild chooses a guild book, and you get extra points for having read this specific book. So I did not pick this book, nor would I think, pick this book. Kingfisher is an excellent writer. The writing and the writing style is very, very good. The material is very dark, and there were a lot of trigger warnings on this particular book, and I didn't particularly love it. I read it. It was all right. I didn't love it, and I found the triggering kind of darker elements to be maybe not what I needed to be reading at this particular time. Now, had I read it at a different time, I might have had a different review, but the darker elements were a bit much. I was really, really in need of something a bit lighter and a bit more upbeat. And this is a very, very heavy, dark book. Having said that, again, it was very well written, very well executed. So if you do like that kind of book, this is definitely a good book to read. I don't want to dissuade you from reading it at all. I just, I'm in a place where I need to protect my energy a little bit more, and this felt like it was kind of dragging at my energy a little bit. I didn't look forward to reading it at the end of the day. Um, and so that's one of the ways that I can really tell if I'm enjoying a book or not, is if I look forward to reading it and don't want to turn on the TV at the end of the day. And there were a lot of times when I didn't want to read this. Instead, I wanted to just turn on and finish The Summer I Turned Pretty TV series, because it just felt lighter and easier. And so, if you're in a place where you can handle that and are good with that, and that's the type of story that you like to read, some of these more complex, darker themes, then this is absolutely well written, but it was not for me. So then we'll talk about the Guild Emporium account. So this is the currency of Irregular Academy, and so everything that you do within, you can earn and lose points, earn and spend points. And so I started this particular semester with 270 guild reputation points, is what GRP stands for. And I earned 420 points this semester. Now, that comes from attending a bunch of live streams, including the all-nighter sprint. I gained a lot of points during the all-nighter sprint, and I gained a good number of points during the other live streams that I attended. So a lot of times what she will do is have live streams during the month, and you can attend the live stream. You can sit and read and do the reading sprints. And then if you've done the reading sprint, she will spin the wheel a certain number of times. In this case, most of the time it was 10. And if you meet the qualifications of the spin, you can get those points. So, for example, it might be I'm wearing socks, or I'm barefoot, or I'm holding the book in my hand. If you happen to be holding the book that you were reading in your hand when the spin happens, or having a cold beverage, or you're having a hot beverage. So all these different things are on the wheel. She also does have lose 10 points on the wheel. So you might, when she spins it, you might win points, you might lose points, you might get nothing. And so this particular year, I was fairly lucky with the wheel, and most of the time I came out ahead on that. I also got points for completing the semester and the guild book, and then I purchased all of those scrolls that we talked about. So I earned 420 points, and I spent or lost on the wheel 115 points, because I do tend to track that. So if I'm on a live stream and she spins the wheel 10 times and I earn 55 points on wheel spins, and then I have that 10-point loss, because it says lose 10 points, then I record both of those and they balance out to 45 points. But I do record both. So this is all the earned, and this is the spent and lost. And my new balance going into 2026 is 575 guild reputation points. So my character has quite the account to spend with. She can buy all kinds of things in the Guild Emporium. There are other things besides just the scrolls. You can buy all kinds of little goodies for your character. I thought I would go on a spending spree at the end of this semester, since I did earn so many points. I don't always have time to participate in those live stream sprints and things, so I don't always get that many points. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to save that and see what is available next year at the start of the year, and then maybe my character can do a little shopping then. But for right now, my character has received a Diploma of Mastery. So my character has finished the Alchemist path. The Alchemist, and I don't know why the name went down like this, But my character is Amethystra Moonveil, and this is her here. And she has now become an alchemist calling master. So she will not need to participate in the alchemist path again next year. I will need to choose a new path for her, and she will start over again at the apprentice level. I do not know. She might have to start at the novice level. I'm going to have to see because I'm starting over again, and it's been a few years since I have done that starting process on a path. I will have to see. But she will be starting a new path next time. So I did complete the semester. I do have to finish the 2 books that I have used the scrolls of extension on. Like I said, I'm in the middle of the Spellshop, and then as soon as I finish that, I will read the other. And so those will be done before the end of the year, which should not be a problem. That all satisfies the criteria for the Magical Readathon. All said and done, there were millions of pages read. There is a list on Google Drive where everybody can track the pages that they have read in every book that they read, and it's in the millions. It's absolutely amazing. So if you like to read and you've not heard of the Magical Readathon, I highly suggest that you go check it out. I think that you will enjoy it. There are paths that don't require as much reading as this particular path. At the time that I chose it, I knew that I liked to read a lot, and I knew that I could use scrolls and things like that to collect things that I read throughout the year and have them all count towards this August semester. So anyway, thank you for joining me for my recap of the readathon. I hope you enjoyed it, got something out of it, maybe a new read, maybe something to add to your to-be-read list, or maybe the desire to create a character for yourself and participate next time. So I will be back again with other planner content. Probably no more big reading videos like this because, I only do this once a year, so you probably won't see anything about the readathon until next August. But with that said, I look forward to talking with you then, or in the next video about planners and things like that. Talk to you soon. Bye.